They looked at you and said something simple, "I love you," and for a moment, everything felt warm, safe, real. But then something strange happened inside your mind. A small voice quietly asked a question. Do they really mean it? Maybe you smiled back. Maybe you said, "I love you too." But somewhere inside, another thought was already forming. What if they change their mind? What if they leave one day? What if I'm not enough? And suddenly, a moment that should have felt peaceful started feeling uncertain. If this has ever happened to you, you are not alone. Many people experience this quiet tension in relationships. On the outside, everything looks fine. Someone cares about you. They show love. They stay. They choose you. But inside, your mind keeps scanning the relationship for small signs that something might go wrong. You notice tiny changes in their tone. You replay messages they send. You wonder if their silence means something. And the confusing part is that you don't want to feel this way. You want to trust the love in front of you. You want to relax into the relationship. But your mind keeps asking questions. Your heart didn't ask. This experience has a name in psychology. It is often connected to something called attachment anxiety. Attachment is the emotional system your brain uses to understand closeness and safety in relationships. From the moment we are children, our brains begin learning a simple but powerful question. Are the people I love going to stay? If a child grows up in an environment where love feels steady and predictable, the brain learns something important. Love is safe. Connection is stable. People stay. But if love sometimes feels uncertain, the brain learns a different lesson. It learns that closeness can disappear. Sometimes this happens in very obvious ways. Maybe affection came and went unpredictably. Maybe someone important was emotionally distant. Maybe attention appeared one moment and disappeared the next. But sometimes the pattern is much quieter. A child may simply notice that emotional closeness feels fragile. That love sometimes depends on behavior, moods, or approval. The brain begins studying these patterns carefully, and something interesting happens. Instead of turning away from relationships, the brain becomes more alert inside them. It starts scanning for signals, small changes in voice, small changes in energy, small pauses in conversation. This is not overthinking. It is your brain trying to predict emotional safety. Deep inside your nervous system, a part of your mind is constantly asking a question. Is the connection still safe? This is where the amygdala becomes important. The amygdala is a small structure in the brain responsible for detecting threats. It is the same system that reacts when you hear a sudden loud noise or see something dangerous. But the amygdala does not only respond to physical danger, it also reacts to emotional signals. For people with anxious attachment patterns, the amygdala becomes highly sensitive to signs of rejection, a delayed reply, a short message, a slightly different tone of voice. To someone else, these moments may seem normal, but to a brain trained to watch for emotional loss, they can feel like warning signals. The mind begins filling the silence with possibilities. Did I say something wrong? Are they losing interest? Are they pulling away? And before long, the brain is no longer experiencing the relationship as calm connection. It is experiencing it as something that needs to be constantly monitored. This is why people with this pattern often feel exhausted inside relationships. Even when those relationships are healthy, their brain is not relaxing. It is scanning. But there is something important to understand here. This pattern did not appear because you are broken. It appeared because your brain learned to protect connection. The child who once noticed emotional changes early may have been trying to prevent distance, trying to keep relationships stable, trying to stay close to the people who mattered. In that environment, awareness was useful. It helped you adapt. But when those same patterns continue into adulthood, they can create tension, even when the relationship itself is safe. You may find yourself asking for reassurance more often. You may feel uneasy during quiet moments. You may worry about losing someone who has never actually shown signs of leaving. And sometimes, the hardest part is this. You know the thoughts are irrational, but the feeling is still real. That is because emotional patterns live not only in the mind, but also in the nervous system. Your body remembers the possibility of loss, even when the present moment is safe. But here is the good news. The brain is capable of learning new patterns. When someone consistently shows care, reliability, and emotional presence, the nervous system slowly begins to update its expectations. At first, the change is subtle. You notice that calm moments last longer. You notice that silence does not automatically mean distance. You notice that your mind asks fewer questions. This process takes time because the brain is cautious when it comes to emotional safety. But every moment of stable connection teaches your nervous system something new. Love does not always disappear. Closeness does not always collapse. Some people stay, and when that lesson begins to settle inside your nervous system, something surprising happens. The mind stops scanning every detail. The heart begins to relax, and the relationship starts to feel less like something you must protect and more like something you can simply experience. Because sometimes the insecurity you feel in love is not about the person in front of you. It is about a nervous system that once learned to expect loss, and understanding that pattern is the first step toward changing it. So if you have ever heard someone say, "I love you," and felt both warmth and fear at the same time, know that your brain may simply be trying to protect a connection that once felt uncertain. And with time, awareness, and steady relationships, that protection can slowly turn into something much calmer. Trust. If this experience feels familiar to you, write the word "safe" in the comments, because sometimes the moment you begin understanding your emotional patterns is the moment your relationships start becoming peaceful instead of confusing.